Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we just had a technical mishap. We thank you for bearing with us. It has been more than 2 weeks since the New York primary, and after a delay, the counting of absentee ballots is officially underway. But the process has been slow going as the city's Board of Elections deals with an unprecedented surge of mail-in votes due to the pandemic, more than 403,000 ballots. And while campaigns in some tight races wait for the final results, advocates and elected officials are working to make sure that every vote is counted. Joining me now to talk about all of this is Brooklyn Assembly member Rodneyse Bichotte. She doubles as the chair of the Brooklyn Democratic Party. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Errol, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here on the show again.
Absolutely. So tell me, where do things stand? There's been a lot of talk about absentee ballots that were not officially time-stamped by the post office being invalidated. Is that happening? What's the status of that question?
Yes. So first off, Errol, New York City have witnessed a historic turnout of voters in this primary election, and that's due to the executive order of where every household was granted an opportunity to file for an absentee ballot. And with that, as you mentioned, over 400,000 ballots were returned. In Brooklyn alone, it was over 100,000. And what we found was that there were a number of ballots that were sent through the post office, but were not postmarked. And in the statute, the Board of Election is not to validate any absentee ballots that are not postmarked that were received after the 23rd. So that becomes a problem because, we in the Assembly and in the state, we have fought for election reform. We wanted to make sure that all people have an opportunity to vote, marginalized communities, seniors, people with disabilities, new Americans. And here we have an issue where a number of voters will not be getting credit for their voting because the post office did not postmark their ballots. So I did call the governor. I did ask that he issue an executive order, but the issue becomes it's a legal statutory issue. If he were to put in an executive order that would count all the ballots that came in through the 30th that were not postmarked, people can sue because he would be pretty much arbitrarily picking a date and guessing. And so we're trying to find ways to see how we can rectify this. We're looking at the actual envelopes to see if there's a way we can backtrack any scan. But what we found out is that the post office didn't scan all the envelopes. So that's a problem. We have been fighting to make sure that post office are fully funded. Apparently the administration has not fully funded. We feel that that has an impact on this unprecedented moment of collecting all these ballots and scanning them.
So with those questions out there, perhaps legislation will tighten it up, I guess, for the next time. But there's a related question for this election. People were told that if their polling site, their early voting site, for example, was open and they had an absentee ballot, they could just drop it off. What is the fate of those ballots? Did they make it into the system and into the count to your satisfaction, as far as we know?
Yes, it did. So all those absentee ballots that were submitted at a poll site, they were counted. So we're very happy about that. But again, we still have a number of absentee ballots, roughly about 4%, that might be thrown away, and no fault of the voters. So we're very concerned about that, especially in Brooklyn primarily. We have a number of races that are very slim, and actually the absentee ballot count will actually determine these races. So it's going to be kind of tricky.
Right. That was true, I think, in the 57th Assembly District and the 51st as well, right?
Yeah, we have a number. We have Assembly members, but there were actually 11,000 absentee ballots to be counted. We also have the 25th Senatorial District where Tremaine Wright trails Jabari Brisport by about 4,000 votes, but there were about 20,000 absentee ballots to count. You have it at the 51st with Felix Ortiz. You have it with the 50th with Joe Lento. Even in some other counties, we're hearing those are the same things. In Westchester, you're talking about Mondaire Jones, who holds the lead, and the absentee ballot count might change that. And we also have Assemblymember Arabella Simotas, who's trailing right now. And again, the absentee ballot count might determine the outcome. So this is very, very important. We are in the Board of Election every day. We are social distancing. We have a number of employees who are proofing, who are scanning, who are doing the count. And we also have a number of people, the public are welcome to come in as long as they have a canvas watcher that is signed by the candidate to come in and see how these counts are done. We're also going to have a number of lawyers. They want to make sure that everything is equitable, is fair. As you know, we had a situation in Queens where it was a tight race between Tiffany Caban and Melinda Katz, and the absentee ballots actually determined the vote outcome.